You're back.
Sorry for the hiatus, boys and girls, but I've been busy playing this game. I'm new to the Persona series, so this review's dedicated to my fellow newbies out there. Creativity is a quality that can often lack in modern gaming. Persona 5 is a game that I never thought I needed, but it absorbed me to the extent that I took a hiatus from my gaming channel. Instead of making videos for the viewers out there, I was just busy playing Persona 5. This is a game that expresses its own identity, which can be risky in the modern era of linear open-world games, first-person shooters, and free-to-play microtransactions. The aesthetics alone are so unique, and with such addicting gameplay, I was hooked for a couple months. If you want to be invested in a deep and over-the-top RPG for around 100 hours, Persona 5 is a must-play. In Persona 5, you play as Joker, a silent protagonist. He's the only character in the game who expresses limited emotion, which is intentional in order for the player to feel linked to him, similar to Link from Legend of Zelda. See what I did there? Do not be discouraged by his lack of expression though, because there's tons of characters and they all bring their own personality to this wacky world. You play as a high school kid in a world full of corruption. You and your trusty pals have the ability to enter a metaverse in which you're able to change the personality of corrupted individuals and rid them of their evil intentions. It's not too far from a superhero tale. You're a regular kid who goes to school by day, and then you kick ass at night. This is a game that's heavily focused on its story, so be prepared for lengthy dialogue throughout your adventure. Fair warning, you will be overwhelmed by how much this game has to offer in the beginning. It took me several hours to get the hang of things. This is not a game for the casual fan. You need to be invested in order to reap the benefits, but trust me, if you put in the time, you will be rewarded with an amazing gaming experience. What makes Persona 5 so great is when you infiltrate a palace. Making another Zelda comparison, a palace is like a dungeon. You fight bad guys, solve puzzles, and then fight the boss. You've heard this formula a million times throughout RPGs, but what separates Persona from its competitors is the intuitive combat structure combined with its rock, paper, scissors damage output. Each character in your party and every enemy you fight has a persona, which is basically a spirit that fights for you. Similar to Pokemon, you need to discover the weakness of the persona, and then you hurt it a little, and then you catch it for the ability to use them in battle yourself. This system gets super deep as you can combine personas to make them stronger and more effective. If an enemy is weak to a specific element like electricity, then you can put them in a daze and gain an additional turn. You can chain some insane combos on these enemies to the point where you can kill them all before they even get a turn. That is, if you know what you're doing. When you enter a new palace and face new enemies, you'll find yourself scouting each opponent for their weaknesses. When you weaken all your opponents into a daze, you can surround them and choose between going all out attack, steal an item, steal some money, or attempt to catch the persona, Chin Pokemon style.
Pokemon Cup! I have to buy a ticket! I have to buy a ticket! I got to buy!
I would typically just kill the enemy in these scenarios, but stealing their lunch money ain't a bad choice. Money's important for when you want to upgrade your weapons and buy armor. Buying items ain't a bad choice either. You're going to meet a lot of new friends along the way who are going to join your team. This will allow you to make some decisions on the fly of who you want to be in battle, as you can only play as Joker and 3 other fighters at once. Every character has their own element, so choose wisely. If you think this is already a deep battle system, the movesets make this just totally bananas. Each persona can have up to 8 different moves in addition to your weapon and your gun. I love this because once you go against an insane boss battle, there's not just one way to beat it. You really have to just play to your strengths and figure out as you go. For a super long game, I never felt a sense of grinding, and that's essential for me to enjoy an RPG. In the beginning of each palace, you'll mix and match with characters in your party until you figure out which enemies are weak to which attacks. Once you figure out a weakness, the game remembers, so there's no crazy amount of information you need to memorize on your end. Just mix and match with some attacks until you figure it out. Joker has the ability to have multiple personas, hence the name Joker. With this ability, you have every element at your disposal, so even if you don't have the most optimal lineup in at the moment, you can still get by through Joker's versatility. Every palace has its own special setting, dope music, and overall aesthetic. The puzzles you have to solve never slow the game down. They're perfectly designed for a high-paced RPG. Unlike most RPGs with their random encounters, Persona 5 allows you to make the most out of your encounters. You can see the enemy before choosing to battle, so you gotta go Metal Gear Big Boss sneak style in order to gain the upper hand and strike first. If the enemy strikes you first, you're in big trouble. You'll be put in a horde of enemies where they all wail on you, and that puts you in a severe disadvantage at the start of the battle. You'll want to go back to the real world in between most safe rooms. I found myself always going back when I was running out of SP, which is magic points. Health is easy to regenerate since you can use SP to auto-heal after battle, but regenerating magic is more difficult when you're in palaces. Whenever you leave and you come back, you'll have all your HP and SP completely regenerated. You will end up beating chunks of specific palaces and then going back to the real world to prepare for your next outing, making sure that you have the right weapons and items at your disposal. It's always great to see what the villains look like in their metaverse. I'm not sure whether the designers attempted to make every single villain look hilarious, but if that's the case, they did an outstanding job. Don't want to give too much away with this footage, but man, do I love this guy. When you're not in a palace kicking ass, you're probably going to be reading tons and tons of dialogue. Story progression is a really important thing, and I don't want to say that Persona 5's story doesn't leave its mark, because it's a really deep story that covers some serious social issues from abuse to depression to even suicide. The entire game is structured through a calendar system where you have to live the life of a teen. There are some life simulator elements to this game, which is something that I don't necessarily love, but I can at least understand the necessity behind it. Time management skills are a must in Persona 5. I think the main issue with the story is how much it drags on. For example, you're forced to manage the life of Joker. This means you have to manage a part-time job, answer questions in school, read, study, go watch TV, go work out with your buddy, maybe even go out on a date if you're feeling a little frisky. You can even go in a bathhouse at night. You can order a maid to your bedroom as well. This game has a whole lot of weird, but that's a part of the charm. Now there is a method to Persona's madness. They're not just weird for no reason. Well, I guess actually sometimes they are weird for no reason, but all your decisions outside of the meta world affect the battle system. The more you bond with your teammates and characters, the more features and battle mechanics you obtain in the metaverse. For example, you can unlock a feature called the Baton Pass for each character, where if you weaken an opponent and gain an extra turn, you can baton pass that turn to your teammate. This is essential for when you're facing multiple enemies and you want to exploit all their weaknesses and chain together a combo, annihilating them all at once. I may be in the minority when I say this, but if they just nerfed all the life sim elements and allowed us to go from palace to palace, the game would have been a lot more enjoyable for me. I want to make it clear though, even though I found the regular world kind of boring, the feeling that I got from these palaces made every single experience in this game worth it. This is subjective, but I think a lot of people agree with me when I say that Persona 5's music is one of the best soundtracks I've ever heard. I honestly credit its amazing soundtrack to how I got through some of the cutscenes that just drag on a bit too far. If you're really against too much dialogue like I am, and you think that this might be a deal breaker for you, there is a fast forward function in the game that lets you zoom past lengthy cutscenes, making it a lot easier for you to get into the action. 2017 was such a great year in gaming that I miss this gem. I love it when I'm able to play a game that feels so incredibly unique, like it's never been done before. Persona 5 is not afraid to be what it is, an incredibly tight RPG with user-friendly display screens and challenging battles and really wacky characters. Even though this is the first time I played Persona 5, or any Persona game for that matter, I got a feeling of nostalgia. I play a crazy amount of games, so it's difficult for me to get engrossed in one game at a time. Persona 5 achieved that through its amazing soundtrack and addicting battle system. If you're looking for a big, meaty game and you're willing to go through a slow beginning in order to gain that rewarding experience, then you have to play Persona 5.
You never see it coming.